Hello and welcome to Midday Report here on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Cato. Moldova has carried out more than 200 raids over alleged Russian-backed efforts to destabilize the country ahead of Sunday's parliamentary elections. President Maia Sandu has warned that Moscow has been spending hundreds of millions of euros to sway the vote.
In a few days, Moldovans will head to the polls to choose their new leaders. But there's more to it than meets the eye. It's a battle for the country's pro-European future. Moldovan authorities carried out scores of raids, arresting more than 70 people over alleged Russian-backed efforts to destabilize the country ahead of the upcoming election. At a briefing in the capital, Chișinău, security officials said Moldovan citizens were being trained in Serbia for that purpose.
The training sessions, including self-training, had a tactical purpose, preparing to destabilize and provoke mass disorder in connection with the current electoral process under the supervision of foreign instructors.
The high-stakes vote on Sunday could have sweeping consequences for Moldova's bid to join the European Union, a process it says Moscow is attempting to derail.
The Kremlin is pouring hundreds of millions of euros to buy hundreds of thousands of votes on both banks of the Dniester River and abroad. People are intoxicated daily with lies. Hundreds of individuals are paid to provoke disorder, violence, and spread fear.
Her main pro-Russian opponent, whose party is expected to pose a stiff challenge to the ruling pro-European Party of Action and Solidarity, has a different view.
Maia Sandu and her Soros government are trying to scare the citizens. Hundreds of daily searches, attacks on our colleagues from the districts, once again show Maia Sandu and her PAS fear the election results.
Russia has denied interfering in Moldova's domestic affairs and says that Sandu's government is stoking anti-Russian sentiment to win votes.
Russia is influencing the Moldovan political scene in a sense of disinformation. So there are many fake news. There are many comments on the internet websites or social media that are pro-Russian, and some of them contain fake news aimed against the president Maia Sandu and her party.
Nestled between Romania and Ukraine, Moldova balances EU aspirations with Russian influence. President Sandu's pro-Western stance has accelerated EU integration talks, with candidate status granted in 2022. However, economic challenges, energy dependence on Russia, and political polarization continue to test Moldova's sovereignty.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on Tuesday that, quote, Poland is ready to act toughly against all airspace violations, referring to the Russian drone incursions into Poland and allied territories. Tusk's remarks come a day after Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski made it clear at the United Nations Security Council that Russia has been warned.
This is Estonia's foreign minister showing a Russian drone incursion into his country's airspace at the United Nations Security Council on Monday. Less than 10 days after the Polish deputy foreign minister did the same, addressing Russia's airspace violation against Poland. Responding to Moscow's growing provocations, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk indicated that the gloves are off.
Poland is ready to react toughly against all airspace violations. In such a situation, I'm counting on univocal and full support from our allies.
Speaking at the UN Security Council on Monday, Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski said that the airspace breaches are an escalation of Russia's hybrid war, which it has, quote, waged against the West for years.
I have only one request to the Russian government. If another missile or aircraft enters our space without permission, deliberately or by mistake, and gets shot down and the wreckage falls on NATO territory, please don't come here to whine about it. You have been warned.
In the experts' view, given Russia's broader aspirations, the officials are right to take things seriously.
It is very dangerous because of Russian policy of restoring imperium. Baltic countries like Poland, like other countries like Slovakia, Hungary, etc., all actually countries of Central Europe are in interest of Russia.
The EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas presented a united front with Poland on European security.
As the Polish Prime Minister today said, if the planes are violating airspace, every country has the right to defend itself and act accordingly.
Sweden echoed this sentiment on Tuesday, saying it is ready to defend its airspace with force. On the same day, NATO, which met at Estonia's request for consultation under Article 4 of the NATO treaty, announced a robust response to Russia's actions. The organization also reiterated its, quote, ironclad commitment to Article 5, a provision indicating that an attack on one member is considered an attack on all.
If there is an immediate threat, of course, we will not hesitate to do what is necessary to protect our cities, our people, our infrastructure.
And I think that what we're seeing is a very consensus-based approach from all allies, because the more Russia does this, the more countries that are west of the Polish-German border are going to increasingly realize that Russia is posing an existential threat to Europe's security.
Hanno Pevkur, Estonia's Minister of Defense, asked by the media if his country is ready to host British F-35A fighter jets, said the door is always open for allies. The British Foreign Secretary expressed readiness to take all steps necessary to defend NATO's skies and NATO's territory.
Slovakia and Hungary will not be invited to this week's EU talks focusing on a drone wall aiming to counter Russian incursions. The European Commission has also confirmed that Ukraine and 7 EU states that form the bloc's eastern frontier will participate. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Romania and Bulgaria, and subsequently will take part in an online meeting later this week. The talks led by European Defence Commissioner Andrius Kubilius will focus on creating a joint network of sensors, defence systems and jamming tools, drawing on Ukraine's battlefield experience. The meeting comes after repeated Russian airspace violations, including dozens of drones over Poland and Romania earlier this month and 3 jets over Estonia last week. Slovakia and Hungary, both EU and NATO members that continue to import Russian oil and resist tougher sanctions and arms deliveries, remain outliers, straining ties with Kyiv. Critical Danish infrastructure came under attack, said Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, referring to the forced closure of Copenhagen's key airport due to unexpected drone activity on Monday night. Norway faced the same problem as European NATO member states deal with repeated Russian incursions into their airspace.
The Oslo airport was closed Monday night following a drone sighting.
It happened a little after midnight, and we chose to keep the airspace over the airport closed until a little after 3 a.m.
Norwegian authorities are investigating whether the sighting is connected to a similar incident at the Copenhagen airport. Danish police remain uncertain how many drones were flying over the airport, where they came from or where they flew to.
We have concluded that there is probably what we call a capable actor behind the use of these drones.
The Danish Prime Minister said the incident was the most severe attack on Denmark's critical infrastructure so far, adding she's not ruling out any possibility as to who was behind it.
I consider it a serious attack against critical infrastructure in Denmark. It's clear the authorities are taking this very seriously, and I do not think that anyone can see the events that took place a few hours ago in Copenhagen, independently of everything else happening in Europe. In any case, I cannot reject in any way that it could be Russia.
The director of the Oslo airport did not seem as alarmed.
Unfortunately, this is not uncommon. Last year, we detected up to 1,500 drones near our airports.
But he was also unsure about the origin of the aircraft.
We have no speculation about that, and it is not our task either, it's the police's.
Danish police believe the incident might be part of a Russian hybrid attack.
That would be silly not to do, and I cannot simply rule out the possibility that this is what we are talking about.
Thousands of passengers were impacted by the airport closures, and dozens of flights were disrupted. The airport in Copenhagen resumed operations shortly after midnight. At around 4:30 local time, a spokesperson said Oslo Airport had also been reopened as well.
Armenia hosts the 108th Rose-Roth seminar of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly this week. Delegations have gathered in Yerevan to discuss regional challenges in the South Caucasus and to explore new partnerships. Our correspondent Diana Skaya is on the ground in the Armenian capital and brings us this report.
A lot of discussions lately about NATO unity and resilience against the Russian hybrid warfare, against Russia's consistent provocations. But that's not only visible in Europe, it's also very much active here in the South Caucasus, in Armenia. And this has also been the topic of discussion at the 108th Rose-Roth seminar at the NATO Parliamentary Assembly here in Yerevan. Now, NATO delegations were here talking about the future of the South Caucasus, about economic resilience, about the challenges, about also cooperation, about how the future peace would look like between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The ambassador to the EU, Mr. Vasilis Maragos, announced 270 million euros to be given to Armenia for more projects that will build Armenia's democratic, of course, resilience. A lot of the talks also centered on cybersecurity. One of the talks this morning was actually called Russia's hybrid warfare, and is it really effective? It just goes to show how much of an important topic and threat that this is in the region. Let's remind our viewers that Armenia is heading into its elections in June 2026. So Armenia is also trying to take the best measures it can to protect itself against that. Now, another thing that has come out of this NATO Parliamentary Assembly is I spoke earlier to the U.S. ambassador to Armenia, who mentioned the latest developments that the United States has provided Armenia with. Let's listen.
On September 11th, our senior bureau official, Mr. Hanrahan, who is here in Armenia, announced that the first tranche of money that would help support implementation of both the memoranda and the joint statement would be passed to Armenia. It will total $145 million, and we look very much forward to using that to help advance all of the projects that we outlined in the memoranda and the joint statement.
Whether it's implementing reforms or security cooperation and collaboration, of course, here the main reason for this assembly here was to have to build a new South Caucasus, to bring it together, particularly when Azerbaijan has been seeing deteriorating relations with Russia. Armenia is trying to distance itself away from Moscow and be closer to the West, to the European Union. It's not going to be an easy path forward. Experts and analysts have both told me that it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of education, but the path will be a difficult one, but Armenia is ready for the challenges. Diana Skaya for TVP World from Yerevan.
The Polish government will soon open a tender for a new high-speed railway rolling stock, Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on Tuesday in Gdańsk. He also called expanding the rail network in Poland his cabinet's obsession, as the government sees this mode of transport as crucial to the country's development and security.
This is Kraków, the biggest railway fair in Poland. Prime Minister Donald Tusk had some good news for attendees.
This year, next year and the one after that will absolutely be record years for Polish rail, in the best possible meaning of this phrase. The numbers involved make your head spin, and sometimes I have trouble believing them myself.
Poland is pouring massive amounts of money into rail, with the state-owned infrastructure operator planning to invest 2.6 billion euros this year and 4.5 billion euros next year. At the same time, the country is getting ready to build its first high-speed rail, which is going to connect the capital of the country with major cities and an Umega airport. And it will be the fastest in Europe.
In the next few days, we will open a tender for high-speed rail, and I refuse to imagine the absence of Polish businesses in it, because Polish businesses must play a leading role in this enterprise.
The high-speed rail will cost 31 billion euros and start operating in 2032.
Ewa Pajor, the captain of Poland's women's national football team and an FC Barcelona player, has won the prestigious Gerd Müller Award at the Ballon d'Or ceremony. Given to the season's best striker, Ewa led the ranking with 43 goals scored over 45 games.
This is the first time the Gerd Müller Award featured the Best Female Striker category, making Ewa the first woman to receive it.
First of all, I want to thank my teammates. I couldn't receive this trophy without you. And this trophy belonged to our team.
She believes this is a clear sign that women's football is growing and becoming more popular.
I am proud to be part of rise of women football, how we growing, how we inspire the little girl who can watch us in big stadium on the television and have the better opportunity to develop.
The Golden Ball, the highest award of the Ballon d'Or ceremony, was won by Ousmane Dembele and Aitana Bonmati, with Eva placing 8th and Robert Lewandowski 17th in the general ranking.
I think that is a great time for the Polish women's football. We need to grow up, we need to develop. So I think that with Eva as a captain of the national team, we're going to play the good qualifications to the World Cup.
The Gerd Müller Award has been in place since 2021 and has been won by Poles 3 times so far, twice by Robert Lewandowski and once by Eva.
And on that happy note, we conclude Midday Report. Thank you so much for joining us and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.